Alright everyone, I want you to stand up and find a little bit of space. Now you're going to stand on 2 feet, jump up in the air as high as you can, then land again. You can try this several times. When you land, think about what your legs are doing. They probably start pretty straight while you're in the air, then they bend after you hit the ground again. You probably end up in a squatting position before you stand back up to try it again. There's an assessment we perform that involves jumping down off a box, landing on both feet, and immediately jumping up as high as you can. When you do this, we look at the angles formed by your joints at 2 points during this motion. First, we look at when you just hit the ground, which is called initial contact. Here, we can examine the angle at the knee if we draw lines on the thigh and on the shank. When the knee is relatively straight and this angle is close to 180 degrees, we call this position knee extension. Then, we look at the angle at the lowest point in your squat. If we draw lines again, we can see that the knee is now in a position we call flexion. Landing from a jump happens pretty quickly, so it's hard to see every detail of these angles with our own eyes. That's where technology can really come in to help us out. When we perform this assessment in the lab, we use a Microsoft Kinect camera, just like you'd use with an Xbox. This camera can measure the angles of all of the joints of your legs and trunk. These angles are important because they help tell us how well someone is moving. We know that there are some risky movement patterns where people have too high or too low of an angle. For example, if you land very stiff and you don't bend your knees enough into knee flexion, this might increase your risk of knee injury. Likewise, if your knees collapse in towards each other, this isn't great either. It stretches the ACL, and it's one position where the ACL can be torn. The software comes up with a score based on the number of movement errors that you make. A score of 0 would mean no errors, and you can score as high as a 17. We like low scores, meaning 5 or fewer errors. If someone has a score higher than 5, this means that they may be more at risk of sustaining an injury in the future. After ACL reconstruction, it's extra important to make sure you're moving with good form, which helps decrease your risk of getting injured again. Our sports medicine staff here at UNC will look at the report generated from this jump and see what errors the athlete makes. Based on that, they can give them exercises and cues to improve their form. Then they can come back into the lab, repeat the landing test, and see if they've made improvements. The ability to integrate this technology into rehab helps ensure that athletes are ready to get back to playing their sport with good form as safely as possible.